We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcasts are at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Wanda Luthman. We're going to be talking about not only her wonderful selection of children's books, but also two other books that she's written on Christian meditation, a quite a turn in a different direction, but both of them probably very much guided by the way she feels, the way she sees things, and the drive from the heart. So she says that when you're at your lowest, who do you turn to? Who is there for you? Some are fortunate to have family and friends who come around and help them through whatever it is that need to get through. Even all those people's best efforts don't always bring comfort. What happens when you truly feel alone in the darkest part of the night? When do your thoughts take you? Where do they take you? It can be a frightening place to be. Have you ever listened to a song or a sermon or a friend's words trying to find that one nugget that would ease your pain? I've been there, she says, and she has survived. She hopes to inspire others to begin their journey to God or back to God, whatever the case may be, the one and only that can truly bring peace and hope and healing life again. Wanda is an international multi-award winning author. She's been a Christian since she was 3 years old. She was baptized at 12 and attended Christian college in the Midwest, double majoring in psychology and sociology. She has practiced in the field of counseling for over 20 years, but she felt she really met her God in her late 40s when her pastor taught her the contemplative listening, which is a Christian form of meditation. Since then, she's been on a mission to share God's love with everyone she meets. She writes fantasy adventure stories that shows lives being changed by the magic of love. And we're going to be talking about that magic of love today, because most certainly love isn't an outside thing, it's an inside thing. It's when you do connect to your divine source, God, universe, spirit, whichever you wish to call it, in your case, most certainly Christian God. But when we choose to be present with our God, when we choose to just be centered and let him in, that's when we truly actually understand what we need to know when we need to know, and we know we're never alone. Welcome to the show, Wanda.
Thank you. It is awesome to be here.
Now, I want to start with the children's stories. We'll get on to the meditation once afterwards. But, children's stories, I have an 18-month-old nephew who's been read to almost from the day he's been born. And, it's obviously pictures, they're there, but it's the rhythm in which his parents read, or we all read to him, and he has his favorite books. And you really, at that age, have no idea what they're comprehending, but they still have a favorite book. And, what we're speaking and what he's hearing is a different thing. But there's so many beautiful messages and lessons that we can put in children's books.
Absolutely. The inspiration behind my children's books really comes from the inner child of me, which, I didn't realize that when I first started writing. It wasn't till years into it that I realized I was kind of talking to my inner child. And hopefully that resonates with other children who are actually still in that stage, and helps them become the people that they're supposed to be.
Always taking the child with them. It doesn't matter how old we get, how popular, how grand, or anything else we get, that inner child is always with us. And it always needs nurturing. It always needs loving, because it is the core of who we are.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah. So it's sort of nourishing their child that's going to stay with them their whole lives. And so, how there's books that were read to us as children, or we read them when we were younger, and we just still remember those stories and the messages that were in them. And it really helps shape us.
Yes. I'm going to just mention a few of the books here. Turtle's Magic Adventure,
Hmm.
Haley's Halloween, there's Frankie, and
Hmm.
there is The Little Princess. Um,
Hmm.
we've got Gloria and the Unicorn. We've got, get out of the way there, Little Birdie Grows Up, Frankie the Flamingo, and then you've got Sophia and the Christmas, I can't
Yep.
quite read that, live show, Snow, is it show? Uh, and
The
and you've got,
Christmas Eve Snow Bunny and a
oh,
Real
okay.
Gift. Yes.
You have the treasure chest of Christmas shows, but you have like three or four of the character Frankie, which is
Yes.
quite awesome. So
Right.
where do you get your inspiration on to write these? I mean, yes, connecting with your inner child, but how do these characters come alive for you?
Well, my very first book was The Lilac Princess.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I mean, I've written since I was little, all kinds of stories, but this wasn't till my probably I was 35-ish or whatever. And I woke up and I just had this story coming to me. It wasn't like I had dreamed it. It was just like coming.
Yes.
And
Put me down on paper. Yes.
on paper. And my husband wanted to go to a brand new store that had opened in Orlando, which is about an hour drive away. So I grabbed my pad and paper and I said, okay, drive, I'm going to write. And at the time, my daughter was 5. And so when we got there, she had fallen asleep. So I told him, I said, you go in and go, I'm going to finish writing and stay with her while she's sleeping. So I finished. And when she woke up, I said, hey, I have a story I'd like to read for you. So I read her, the story. It was short at that time. And the entire story just flowed.
Mm.
I can't exactly say where it came from.
I did, the channel. You channeled it from the
That's
source
right.
energy, God energy, right? That's when we're
This is
present. That's when we get it.
that is absolutely the truth. And so I wrote it down on paper, wasn't planning on publishing it. And then years later, I read a book called The Purpose Driven Life by Pastor Rick Warren.
Mhm,
And it was like trying to find your purpose in life. And even though I'm a counselor and I know that's my calling,
mhm.
there was just something missing. And I realized it was to write to publish, not just
Yes.
write for my own
Yeah. It's an
enjoyment.
extension of your counseling.
Yeah,
Mhm,
absolutely. And so I went about making it into a chapter book. So it's targeting ages like 7 through 11,
mhm,
and went ahead and I attempted to get it published by the big 5. I sent it off and all those kinds of things, got a little nibble, but eventually decided to self-publish. Well, it was years later. I don't know if it was maybe 5 more years after I had published it, I sat down and reread it. And I was like, this is actually the story of me, my
mhm,
life.
mhm,
In the story, the Lilac Princess, she is not allowed to go outside the castle walls because it's not safe.
mhm.
There's lots of wars and there's, all kinds of dragons and things going on, but she sneaks out anyway because she has to get to those lilacs. And of course, the mean icky dragon steals her
Mhm.
away. But the twist for this is she, of course, her little boy, he's not a boyfriend, but a male friend, who kind of helped her along the way, shows up and he's going to rescue her. And so they stab the dragon and he's dying, which I know is really scary for 7 to 11-year-olds. But as he's dying, he's saying, please, please, will you forgive me?
Mm,
And they can't really hear him, so they have to get close. And he's begging to be forgiven. Well, both of them had done wrong. And
mm,
so they realized they needed forgiveness
mm,
too. And so they went ahead and chose to forgive the dragon. And that was my life story. There
mm,
was a big bag dragon in my life that needed forgiving. And I didn't realize that when I wrote that story, that
mm,
that was my life. And so the inspiration definitely come
mhm.
from the one above. And it was all about me.
Yes.
So that's how that particular book came to be. The other one, the second one, was Turtle's Magical Adventure. And my daughter actually had a turtle. and we loved watching him swim and everything, and his shell was just so beautiful. But I got to thinking, how hard it is for a turtle. They're so slow and everything. So the whole book is about how he doesn't like being slow. And so he's encouraged to go to the wizard to have his shell removed. So he goes on his journey, and through various and sundry things, realizes that he really doesn't want to lose his shell. And he learns to love the shell that he's in. And so it's about self-acceptance, which
Yes.
again is another one of my
Yes.
my journeys lessons.
Relate.
And yes, totally relate to that one. And then the other one was, and that's a chapter book too. The other chapter book is Gloria and the Unicorn. And this one, I ride bikes, and I was riding out in the country, and I saw this pretty little pony, pretty all white pony. And I'm like, ooh, he needs a story. And so, of course, in the story, he's the unicorn. And it's about a girl who, when she was born, her face became misshapen from trying to be born. And so her mom unfortunately passes in the middle of giving birth, and her dad is so grief stricken he can't raise her, so he gives her to a home. And that woman loves her very much. It's not a bad situation, but doesn't want to send her to school because she's afraid she's going to be picked on and things like that. So it's a little bullying lesson in there. But eventually the unicorn shows up because all she wants to do is learn to read. And the unicorn helps her learn to read. Well, after the unicorn leaves, each time there's a little pile of dust left behind, and she picks it up and she puts it in her robe pocket, her bathrobe pocket. Well, then when she's reading books, she starts to be able to go into them because her robe makes her magical. Well, the wizards hate that, and so they steal away the unicorn, right? And so she is so doesn't have a lot of self-confidence and all those sorts of things, but only she can save the unicorn. So it's really about how her love for the unicorn helped her have courage to do what seemed like the impossible. And to me, that was another one of my lessons. Like we talk about, that magic of love is what gives us courage to do things we might not otherwise have the courage to do.
These children's books may be for children, but I think when the adults read them, not only is it a reminder to their inner child, but it's a reminder, full stop. We so kind of get caught up in chasing life and being on the highway of life and not paying attention to the signs of the joy or the purpose of life. And then sometimes reading these things and I found that courage to do that, or I haven't had a conversation with my inner child, or it doesn't matter what I look like, I'm beautiful anyway, and it's all of these things that we take on because society has dictated that we do so, and we realize is that like an itchy garment that doesn't belong. And it gives us courage to face things in our own life. So while we're reading to the children, we're actually reading to our inner child and freeing ourselves as well. At the same time, them being an example to our children, because we were willing to take that journey and be that inspiration that gets that invitation for that child. So children's books, if you've got a chance to read to a child, whether you have or not, it's, read to your child or a child, because it's reading to you too.
Absolutely. Yes. Those messages can sometimes get through easier to adults because they're kind of couched in like a childish kind of style. So you don't even realize that it's speaking to you too as an adult,
Yeah. And, I always, as you said, when you wrote the first one, it was your story, the unicorn, your story. And it's that I think, the best writers are when they become the story, where, there's a few people that set out, I'm going to write about this, and it's external. But I think when it's written from the inside out, it is the story that needs to be told, not only for you, but for anyone it resonates with out there. But if it doesn't resonate with you, it's not going to resonate with anyone out there.
Right. That is so very true. Yeah, you can't just write without your own emotion and your
Yeah.
own self going into it. And that's why writing is like so personal. And
Hmm.
like if people don't like your book, you're like, oh, it's like, hurting you because it's like they're rejecting you and you have to kind of separate that out. But
Yes.
yes, if you put
Yep.
yourself
We have
into
no
it, very
control
much so.
of what other people's opinions are, and
No,
that is theirs to own.
this
Don't
is
take it
true.
on, you know.
That's so
Definitely lessons
true.
that we need to learn. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So then I got interested in picture books, and I have always loved to write poetry that rhymed.
Mm.
And I had a friend one time, a writer friend, tell me that rhyming was childish and not real poetry. And when I found picture books that do rhyme, that's the
Mm.
whole point
Yes.
of them, is for children to learn to expect the next word by it rhyming.
The
I'm like,
rhythm of
oh,
life too,
the,
right?
the rhythm of life.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I found my home,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And so my very first picture book was Little Birdie Grows Up.
Hmm.
And again, this was my story. Absolutely. I have, one child who's my biological child. I have four stepchildren, but I didn't actually raise them. So
Hmm.
my child was an only child at home. And when she was getting ready to leave for college, I was really,
Yeah.
um, I was having a hard time. And I know some people, when their child is ready to leave for college, they're like so happy they can't wait for them to leave. That
Right.
was not my situation. And so I was bemoaning my feelings to a friend who said, you should write a book about a little birdie who grows up and leaves the
Hmm.
nest. And I'm like, okay. So I sat down to write it and I was going to make it a chapter book like I had
Hmm.
been. And I realized in it that there were rhymes. And I'm like,
Mm.
wait, I think I can make this into a picture book. And so I pared it all down and made it into a picture book and found an illustrator and all that wonderful stuff. And it was my first book to win an award. It won
Mm.
second place in an international book competition
Excellent.
alongside books that are traditionally published. So I'm
Right.
very, very proud
Yes,
of
that's big
that
achievement.
book.
Yeah.
Yes, and I have moms who say it'll bring a tear
Hmm.
when they read it, but to the kids, they love it. It's all sweet and good, but the moms, they get it when they're reading it to the kids. They go, "Oh yeah, one day my child's going to grow up and leave me."
Yes.
You know?
Well, in a lot of ways, when they're teenagers, they're
Uh,
already leaving you,
Yes.
because they're finding
Yeah.
themselves, and it's like, well,
Mhm.
I don't have that snuggle wuggly relationship with them anymore.
Right.
They don't need me as much, and it's
No,
that transition as they go out. Excuse me, folks, I'm a bit croaky today for some reason, but
that's
um,
okay.
but it is that kind of transition, and then they go,
Yes.
and
Yes.
but nowadays, because the rent's so high, they come back. So we need a
Oh,
book on
that's true.
that. I
Right,
don't know if you
right.
remember the commercials of them hiding the butter and bringing out the margarine so the kid wouldn't stay.
That's funny. I love it.
So there's always mixed feelings, isn't there? But
Right,
I
right.
love the fact that it's always in relation to your own story, and
Mhm,
the big thing that comes up to mind is you are channeling. You're
mhm,
allowing the story to come out the way it is. You're not being, I mean, the influence there, you should write a book on that, yes, but
mhm,
instead of it being the chapter book, oh, no, 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 this sounds rhythmic. This needs to be
mhm,
that. And you didn't go, no, it's got to be a chapter book. You allowed yourself to go down a different thing. And that a lot
mhm,
to do is when you are in faith, whatever your faith is, and you know how to center yourself and be present with self, that is when you're spoken to. That's when you are
mhm,
guided. And for you not to fight the guidance, but go with the guidance, and
mhm,
I've just done a show in meditation with the wonderful Michelle Pascal, had him back on again, and he's a meditation master, most certainly.
mm,
And he talks about his meditating amongst the chaos, or meditating in something we absolutely love. When we're in passion of
mm,
something, we're in meditation. And when you're writing, and
mm.
it flows from you, it is a form, you're in sync, you're in flow, you're in rhythm. It is a form of meditation itself, isn't it?
Yes, yes, for sure. It really is. Yeah. I mean, I will lose track of time when I'm writing. I will
Yeah.
have no concept that time has gone by because I'm so focused and the creativity is just flowing. And I'm like, I know the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then suddenly, the whole day is gone,
Yes.
you know.
What week is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been a blogger and an article writer for a long time, but
Mm,
I just put my hand to writing my memoir. And I thought,
mm,
because I have dyslexia and very often, the writing back to front, things like that, I thought, no, I'm not going to write it. I'm going to audio it. And then I just sat down one day and I'll see where it goes. And, 63 words later, 63,000
mm.
words later,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's like, and then reading it through, it became a reveal of my
Hmm.
own life's journey, because you see your life in segments, right?
Hmm.
You don't see it in the whole picture. And when I was kind of writing it, there was a lot more I could have said. And my brother has said, no, you've got to put this in, you've got to put that in. But it was, it was my observation of my life, not me reliving my life. But it's still at the same time looking, oh, there's a thread here. Ooh, no wonder I did this and I did that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, when you write something down, or whether you're an artist or you paint or you're a
Mhm.
speaker or singer or whatever, when you look at the finished product, you realize what the story really is.
Yes, yes. So true. So true. That's why in therapy, people are recommended to journal because
Yes,
once you get it out of your head where it's not making any sense, you get it out on paper, you can see so much more. It reveals those threads and those
yes.
patterns. And then you go, oh, well, of course I do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
I've been dyslexic, I realized that I couldn't express myself through handwriting until at the age of 46, I got a computer. And
Mm.
then suddenly the computer, because I could autocorrect and this and that, I found a voice that I didn't know I
Wow.
had. And
Mhm.
especially as my brother is a professional writer and a professor of literature, master's degree and all of that, it is like, he's the writer, I'm not. But there are different ways of writing. This is why we see so many books go into audiobooks, because
Mhm.
it is the translation of the story, right? Have you any
Mhm.
of your books gone into audio yet?
Yes, I think all of them are in audio
Good.
book. Um, I'm not sure if all my picture books are because I wasn't sure if that made sense really.
Yes,
But
yes.
then I thought it might be where a parent would want the audio book and the
Mm,
picture book and have it where it reads, although it'd be better for the parent themselves to read,
yes.
but it is another avenue.
Yeah. Busy
Um,
cooking dinner, the kids listening to the book. Yes, it's better
right.
than them smashing something up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so many people today are so busy, and like podcasting, people like to listen to it in the traffic, going for a
Mhm.
walk, doing the laundry, doing their workout. It's the same with audiobooks. It's
Yes.
not everybody's got the time to sit down and read, but they can be doing something, and while
Mhm.
they're listening, they're unaware of what they're doing. I had
Mhm.
9 shows last week, and so there was a lot of editing and stuff to put up. And I just put on actually Michelle's music, because he's a singer as well. And
Mm.
he just took me over here into that divine presence, and my brain
Mhm.
just got on and did the work.
Yeah. Awesome.
So
Yes.
an audiobook can really, you can read it one way, and but when it's audioed, it's just another avenue. And really, quite honestly, we just want people to get the story in them, whichever
Yes.
way they get
Yeah.
it.
Right. And sometimes, like, let's say you're driving on a trip, it
Mhm.
will really help the
Yeah.
time go by.
Yes.
You're not
Especially
just
with
bored
kids in
sitting
the
there.
car. Are we there yet?
Right. Right. It's a
Yeah.
great way to pass the time.
Yes, because you can listen to the radio only for so long, and there's the commercials and ads and things like that. And um, that, especially with kids in the car, they are impatient, aren't we? There,
Mhm.
we used to play I Spy, which took,
Yes.
so much time. I could see this, I could see that, and then they're bored with that. And of course, we played music, but we didn't really have audiobooks back when my kids were young. And I wish we had, because it really would have been something that would have put everybody more at peace and relaxation,
Right.
especially me, the driver.
Yes, for sure.
Because kids
So
fighting in the back seat, no.
yeah, yeah. So then I discovered Frankie the Flamingo. That became um, my, I love flamingos, and you know, flamingos have to eat a certain diet to stay pink. And my daughter was a very, very picky eater. Both my husband and I were picky eaters, so obviously we
Yes.
created a super picky eater. And she was like 5 and getting ready to go to school the next year, so we were trying to figure out what we could pack her in her lunch. So we thought peanut butter and jelly, that makes sense. She likes peanut butter, she likes jelly, she likes bread. Well, we put it in a sandwich and gave it to her for dinner, and she sat there for a solid hour, not willing to try it. And we tried everything. Like, you like peanut butter, you like jelly, you like bread, what, and she just wouldn't have it. And so I always tell that story on her. She's 27 now and not so picky, but that's where Frankie the finicky flamingo came from. She was my inspiration on that. And so that was a picture book, and people just loved Frankie. And so I
Yes.
thought, I need to make him into a series.
Yes.
And so we have a really beautiful river that I ride my bike along here. And I was riding my bike and I saw some trash in the river. And I had my idea for the next book, and I called it Frankie the Thirsty Flamingo, because of course they need to drink water, but his water was polluted. And so it's all about keeping the earth clean.
Yes.
It's a great Earth Day book,
Yes.
to encourage children to, pick up their trash and
remind the parents.
and remind the parents, right, to, just to keep the earth clean,
Yes.
And so that was that one. And then the next one was I think I did Frankie the Friendly Flamingo, and he was truly an anti-bullying book. That is, a big problem with our children, unfortunately.
Yes.
And so, because Frankie, he helped another bird who was being kind of angry channel his feelings and realize that what he's doing is hurtful. And so then, that bird was able to apologize, and the other bird, forgave him, and everybody learned a lesson about being kind to one another.
Kindness and forgiveness, again, the message.
Kindness and forgiveness. Absolutely. Forgiveness is so huge in our lives.
Oh God, yes. And kindness.
And kindness. Yes. If we can do that, if we can offer that to the world, we have done an amazing thing.
Exactly. Yes.
And people need forgiveness every day. Nobody's perfect, and they do stuff and hurt our feelings all the time, and yeah. And we do stuff where we need forgiven, all the time as well. So then the fourth book, really, it was my pastor's granddaughter who wanted a book about a crab. And so I did this one. It's kind of along the lines of anti-bullying, because the crab picked on a baby turtle, how they're hatched and they have to run to the water. But I changed it to make it a little bit different, so that Frankie was showing the crab, you can be big and strong, but that's not the reason to be mean.
Right.
It's a reason to be good and kind and use it to help others.
Compassionate.
And so be compassionate, yes, and be helpful instead of hurtful. And so that's kind of the lesson in there. It's not just about kindness, because if you are stronger than somebody else, you use that for, you have
Good.
compassion, and you use it for good instead of for harm.
Right.
So those were my 4 Frankie books. I'm not sure I'm done with them, but that's as far as I got on those. And then I decided to do a couple of holiday books. And so that's where Haley, the Halloween cat, and the search for Biddy the Bat comes from. And so that's
what age group is that for?
So picture books, all my picture books are really like 0 to 7-ish, for parents to read to them, and then for them to eventually learn how to read it themselves. So so it's more pictures and fewer words. And
Yeah.
so Haley, the Halloween cat, she is searching for her best friend, Biddy the Bat, who is nowhere to be found during the day because bats, of course, sleep during the day. And when they finally find her, it's kind of a little fun thing where Haley's asking the monster and the witch and the rat and the scarecrow if they've seen her friend. And so they all kind of come along to help her find Biddy the Bat. And so when Biddy finally shows up, of course, it's nighttime. And so it's really about friendship and, that life is just more fun when our friends are with us.
Collaboration.
Collaboration, apps on problem solving.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Together. Everybody's got a voice. Yes.
You don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
my my daughter and son-in-law, they love Halloween. And I actually have to quickly say a funny story. My grandson is 18 months old, and the other day his father pretended to be a zombie, and of course he doesn't know what a zombie is, right? But he's walking like this, and little Rowan is just goes to his mother, and then dad hides behind the corner, and he grabs his mother to go and find, sees him, runs back screaming, right? Eventually his dad sits down, and little Rowan just goes over to him and just goes, ah! Screams at him with all his might and stomps his foot as if to say, take that. It was just so funny. It was so funny. It was just adorable.
That is adorable.
You scared me, I'm going to scare you back, put you in your place. But that's, never seen a zombie before. Why would dad walking funny like that be scary? And that's the thing. There's the imagination of a child. We don't know what's in their head, right? But that's what makes it exciting, how they interpret things. And that's so, you can read a story to them, and if you ask them to say what it's about, they could come up with something, totally different meaning. But it's not wrong. No, perception is how they see it. Respect that.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's very true. To not discredit or disown their perception and the way they're experiencing the world for that story or whatever.
Exactly, because there isn't a wrong way or right way for a story. It's how it's interpreted to us, where we are in that space of time, and how we receive it. You can go back and read it another time, and it's seen through totally different eyes, right?
Very much so. Yes.
So then you did a Christmas one.
I did a Christmas one. And so that was Sophia, the Christmas Eve snow bunny, and the real gift. And so that's about a white little snow bunny who, she was an orphan. And so Santa brought her gift that she really, really wanted, which was a red kite. And she just loved her red kite. Well, when she got older, Santa asked her if she would help him by delivering gifts to other orphaned animals. And so the fun thing about this book is she goes around the world delivering gifts to different animals. So it can be used kind of as like a geography lesson. She lands on this continent, there's these types of animals, and she lands over on this continent, there's these type of animals. What?
About connection.
Yes.
Making the world smaller.
Yes, that the whole world needs to be thought of and loved, and especially anybody who happens to feel disenfranchised. And so she goes around and delivers all these gifts and realizes that the best gift is giving. Right. And so
the receiving is in the giving.
Yes. And so I thought that was a really beautiful lesson for children, because so often children become selfish. They don't mean to be. They just are kind of
generate
that way.
We generate that.
Yes, we generate that because we focus. And they just think everything revolves around them. And it's really important to teach them to be a little less self-centered and to think about other people, and that not everybody maybe has a perfect life or a perfect family, and to, be
Back to compassion
generous
again.
and thoughtful. Yes, being generous and thoughtful, and to other people, and not just Christmas isn't all about you and all the gifts you get.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and
So
being, talking about self-centered, but we do want people to understand about the center of self.
mm,
Centering of self, that there is a difference, like the
yes.
importance of you is important, not the importance at the expense of you. We should invest in ourselves. We should nurture ourselves, because the more abundant
Mhm.
we are, the more our cup runneth over. But we've
Yes.
got to understand, when that cup runneth over, how does it benefit everyone else? So, as we said, the gift of receiving is in the giving. But if you're
Mhm.
going to give all the time and not receive, then you're going to be empty.
Right.
So if you can fortify your inner self, then
Mhm.
whenever you give, you're always fortified by the receiving of the giving, right?
Right.
So there is a
Right.
difference of self-centered and centering of self,
Right.
which we
That is
don't
a
teach.
very good point. No, we don't. We don't really teach self-love.
No,
Loving yourself is not wrong, and
no,
it's
it's
not,
imperative.
it's imperative, right?
Yes.
And it's not really about pride, like
No,
puffing
or
yourself up,
ego. Yeah.
self-love.
Hmm.
It is more that centering of, knowing who you are and who you're connected to,
Yes.
to keep yourself in just this really good present space. And then your cup is full, and then
Yeah.
you do have something to
Mhm.
give. But if you are giving out of obligation or out of guilt
Expectation of what
or
you're going to get in return.
expectation
Yeah.
to get back,
Yeah.
then that's not the right
No.
motive, and you're not going to be full, and you're not going to be joyful in giving. And so those are all really good points to make about centering ourselves and loving ourselves,
Mhm.
which is so very important, so that we have something to give. But we don't give 100% of the
No.
time. We do have to have some time where we are,
Yes.
taking care of ourselves and making sure we're okay. Yeah, it's not meant to drain us,
No.
our giving.
No. The
That's
more
not
abundant
healthy.
we are, the more we have to share. But
Yeah,
if we don't step into the rejuvenation of that abundance, then what have we got to give?
right.
Right. And that
Mhm,
centering of yourself and allowing your God, whatever your source of
mhm,
energy is, of that alignment, like you have channeled all these books through. But what did they do? They channeled through you, but they connected with you. So you
mhm.
related it as your story,
Right.
right? And so,
Mhm.
yes, the mind, well, really, the heart of you had this to say, but the soul
Yes.
of you showed you how to say it in a way that was meaningful to you and to anyone else that resonated with it.
Mhm. Right. Right. That is very true. I love that. I hadn't even thought of that myself, so I love that. I will put that in my heart because I love that.
Yeah,
But
it is about the channeling. You're channeling the wisdom to know how to use the knowledge. But in order to channel God, whatever you wish to call your source of energy, your source of love, it has to come through an open heart. And if it
mhm,
doesn't resonate with the heart, the spirit doesn't know what to do with it, and the mind certainly doesn't know how to use that information. So the heart
mhm,
needs to be open so that it
mhm,
can feel it, lifting up the spirit into action, and the mind will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. But that
mhm,
divine wisdom is that opening up to the God source and allowing
mhm,
it to come through you to clarify and feed and nourish your heart, so that spirit can go into action where it can extract the information from the mind that is relevant to what you need in the now.
mhm. Right. That is so true. That's so profound and deep. I love it.
Again, the inside life rather than the outside life, right? We live a much
Yes.
better outside life when we come from the inside. And, anything
Yeah.
that teaches our children and, the readers, parents, aunts,
Mhm.
uncles, grandparents, to
Yes.
remind
Yes.
themselves to go back to that center is always
Mhm.
important. Now, you wrote another book about boxes.
Um, I don't remember one about boxes,
Okay, no,
but
wait, I mean, which one? No, not boxes. So there was something else. There was
well,
another
there's
one.
the treasure,
The magic
treasure
unknown,
chest. Is
right?
that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, maybe the treasure chest is the one I'm looking at. Yes.
Okay, so it's an anthology. So it's a group of different children authors who I
Mm-hmm.
was honored to be asked to be part of and to write a story to be included.
Mm.
So I have one story in that book, and it's called The Mermaid and the Genie, and it's a chapter book. And it's about a mermaid who once a year she's allowed to come on shore, and her fin becomes feet and she can walk around, and she's walking on the beach and she hits something with her toe, and it turns out to be a genie lamp, and out pops a genie, right? So she meets this genie, and he's like, what are your three wishes? And she's like, I don't need three wishes, I'm magical
Yeah.
myself. Right. And so she's like, I'll have to think about it or whatever. So then he says, okay, well, I have a riddle for you. And he asked her, what is the most selfish thing that humans tend to ask for when they get me? And so she starts guessing certain things. But in the meantime, she wants to explore the island because she only has one day. So they start wandering through the island, and the parallel is like they go into a cave and then they go down a waterfall, and it's all parallel to experiences we have in life.
Mm-hmm.
And she's asking certain things while they're walking through these different parts of the island. And she's like, is it money? And he's like, well, no, money isn't necessarily selfish if they're using it because
Yeah.
they need a home for their family or they need to feed their family. And so she asks different questions that you think would be, the most selfish thing. And he explains how that's not really selfish if it's for this purpose or
Yes.
that
The
purpose.
perception of.
Yes. And so they get all the way through, and the day is ending. And she says, I don't have any wishes. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wish for you to be free. And so she sets him free from being, a genie in a lamp where he's got to, fulfill wishes. And but the thing is, he needs to go and help humans,
Yeah.
but out of his heart that he wants to help humans. And that's what mermaids do all the time anyway. So she already
Mm-hmm.
is going to go back to that life. But anyway, it kind of teaches some lessons about what's considered selfish
Mm-hmm.
and what's not. And kind of the journey of life. And so it's deeper than you would think,
Yeah,
on the
so
surface.
I actually just did my own show this week. I actually did it emails versus social media, but the premises of it
Mm,
is that we've become so cryptic. Our attention span went to 7 seconds. Now it's 3 seconds, and used to be a headline, and now it's one word or an emoji. And
mhm,
we're so busy chasing, 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 trying to, be seen, trying to be heard, but we don't give anybody any content, right? We
mhm.
don't ask the questions. We're not willing to take the journey of discovery. And
Wow.
you're going to miss everything on
Mhm.
your journey of the fast lane. It kind of
Yes.
reminds me of that wonderful movie Up, where the dog is out there,
Mhm.
squirrel. And it is,
Yes.
we're doing this to ourselves, and never mind paying attention to what's around you, but you're not at all listening to what's within you. You're
Mhm.
chasing an illusion,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
having something that requires the questions and what is the answer,
Mhm.
reflects back on pausing to ask ourselves questions about our
Mhm.
own lives, which, I think this is something that's imperative, not only we teach to our children, but also that is something that we start teaching back to ourselves, because we're losing
Yeah,
the art of
I
even
agree.
communicating with self, never mind anyone else.
Right. So
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Now
Yes.
let's get
Very
to
true.
your Christian books, because
Okay.
you've written The Veil and you've written
Mhm.
The Cloak. Which one came first?
The Cloak came first.
Mhm.
And so this book came to me. So kind of backing up to, I had a pastor who wrote a book. It's called Knowing as You Are Known.
Mhm.
And this was right at the time where I was starting to come to my realization that I wanted to write and publish.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, I would like to read your book. And so I purchased it from him, and I didn't realize it was going to change my life.
Mhm. That's what
And
books do. I
that's what books do.
love it.
And so it turned out to be, it was a 28-day meditation. So you read a part of it, the first part, and then he had some questions to take you deeper, and then he gave you something to meditate on. And the very first one was to meditate on the love of God.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of doing that, and I was, I guess, 47, I think is what I said, when I first did that. That was the first time in my life I experienced actually feeling
Mm-hmm.
God's love.
Mm-hmm.
You hear God is love and God loves you. I never felt it
Yes.
until I spent that time meditating, and then it just was overwhelming.
You were
You know,
present.
I was present.
That's right.
And that's the beauty of
Yeah.
meditation, is
Mm,
just being present, so
mm,
you can feel and experience God. And so further on through meditating, um one of the aspects is to like read a scripture and then envision being in that scene, and what do you see and what do you smell and what do you hear. And so this time I was meditating on the crucifixion of Jesus,
mm,
and when they were gambling for his cloak and the Roman soldier that won his cloak. And so I was envisioning all that, and off my mind went into what happened when this Roman soldier took this cloak home. What did
mm,
he tell his wife,
mm,
that how he got it, who the man was, and blah, blah, blah. And so it was powerful, this
mm.
meditation. And it was right before I went to work. So when I got to work, I immediately typed it all out as fast as I could, because it was special.
Yes.
And I left it. I didn't do anything with it for a couple of years. And then a short story contest came up, and I don't like to write it like real quick for something. So I was looking for something I'd already written, and I was like, oh yeah, that cloak meditation. So I pulled it back out and polished it up, and I sent it to an editor who helped me like really hone it down. And I put it in the contest, and it didn't win. I would like to say it did, but it didn't. So I did call the lady who ran the contest. It was a local contest. And she said, well, it came in 9th out of 50. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, I'd say that's pretty good. And she said, really, it's because the content is Christian and not everybody
Yes.
is that cup of tea. And so, the judges didn't all agree. And that's perfectly fine. But I thought that was really good feedback. I'm like, okay, so it wasn't a bad story after
No.
all.
Yeah.
So then my mom, she's like, you should publish that. And I go, oh, but it's just a short story. And she's like, you should publish it. And I go, oh, okay. So I do. I go ahead and publish it. It's, a really small little book. And what I did is, wrote the whole story. And then at the very back, kind of give the prayer to become a Christian if people are interested.
Mhm.
So I see it kind of as a book that people could give to a friend or a neighbor or something if they're wanting to share, the good news of Jesus. So I wrote that book. Well, the next thing that started happening was I got another idea, and that was the veil. And the cloak is kind of like a little minor part in the crucifixion story, and kind of the veil is too. It's like only in a couple of the books does it talk about it ripping when Jesus died. And you kind of think, well, that's interesting that it's something that happened, but it's so minor, but really it kind of has a big meaning.
Yeah.
And so I wrote that story about a 13-year-old Jewish boy who he becomes, a man turning 13, and how a priest chooses him to be his understudy. And he's showing him what to do in the inner room and all that when Jesus dies and the veil opens. So they are eyewitnesses to it, and they're experiencing what it all means and stuff. And so that is the second book in what I call my biblical fiction. It is true, but it's the rest of the story that nobody knows. That's the fiction part, right? Like what really happened.
Yeah.
But it's kind of
Biblical
just,
faction
yeah.
based on fact, right? Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
it's me just kind of living into that scripture
Yes.
and seeing what might have happened,
Right.
to kind of bring the story alive and add depth to the understanding of Jesus's crucifixion and what he did for us. And so I plan to write at least 10 of these short stories, and then eventually I'm going to publish them each separately, but I do plan to put them all in one big book, so that it all is all smaller details about Easter and crucifixion and what it all
Right.
means. So I have another one written already, but it'll be the next one I publish, called The Stone, and that's the one about the stone that was rolled in front of his tomb after he passes. And then I think the next one is the donkey, and that's the donkey that he rode into Jerusalem. And then there's the tree, which is the tree that becomes the cross. And then the one I'm currently writing is the vine, and that's the vine they twisted together to make the crown. And so then after that, I don't know how many that winds up being, but I plan, like I said, to get to 10 and then publish it as one big book. But I'm really, really enjoying this biblical fiction genre, and how I kind of pivoted from children's books to biblical fiction. Of course, I've been a Christian my whole life, and so my children's books have threads in it, of course, of Christian principles and things. They're just not like, directly about Jesus per se.
Right.
And I did that on purpose so that I could go to public schools and it would, be a broader appeal. But then, unfortunately, my husband passed away
Oh, I'm
3
so
years
sorry.
ago. Thank you. It was sudden. He seemed okay, and then suddenly he wasn't okay, and the test revealed he had brain cancer, and he died within 7 months. It was very quick, and just a very he just went downhill very fast, and it was just like, you're doing all you can to try to help, and you can't help. You don't know, there's nothing you can do.
No, it's more loving while he's still here and helping him with the transition. Really, everybody coming to terms with it and letting him go gracefully with love, and not being frantic to try and save him when that is not what the journey is.
Unfortunately, I didn't realize that. I did not really. He did. The doctor said 1 to 2 years. He embraced it. He did all the things he needed to do. But I was in the fix it. We got to fix it. We got to fix it. And it really took. And I mean, I did pray for will he be cured? And I felt like God told me this is not the end.
Yes.
And so I thought, okay. So he's going to be cured. And so I was focused on that.
Yes.
And
you misinterpreted this is not the end.
You are so right. I was going to get there, which I'll get there in a minute. But at the bitter end, it took a doctor really saying to me, Wanda, he's not going to make it. And this, what's happening right now is not living. And help me understand that he was passing. And my husband, he was, so, I mean, even with brain cancer, he understood what was happening, and we had a beautiful conversation where he said he was ready. He was a Christian and he was ready to go see God, and all of that, and was put my heart at peace that he was ready. And so at the bitter end, I was like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. Well, probably 6 months later, I was sitting in church, and there's a song that says something about you're a miracle worker and a promise keeper. And I just got mad. I was so mad, and I was crying, and I'm like, God, you promised this is not the end, and you didn't keep your promise. And God said, I didn't mean that he was going to live here. I meant that he's going to be with me for all eternity. It is not the end,
nor of his spirit, or his spirit.
His spirit is alive forever,
and with you whenever you want it to be.
Yes. And so so then I was like, oh, I really did misread that.
Yes.
And but it's okay, because I think it was important for me to stay positive and all of that while we were going through all that. So I mean, it was okay, but I did have to process that as part of my grief. Anyhow, so that is where the pivot came, because somewhere in there is when I published I'd written a cloak beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
but somewhere in there I published it, and wanted to be more direct about my faith and how God has helped me get through the grief.
Mm-hmm.
It is really awful to lose your spouse. It is awful
Mm.
to lose anybody you love.
Yes.
Losing your spouse, where you are no longer, you lose your identity.
Yeah.
You're no longer a married person, you're now a single person. You don't want to be a single person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that, but here you are, and then you don't have that person in the house to talk to anymore,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to figure out how to be alone with yourself and make all the decisions and do all the things, and so it just impacts your life every which way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was huge. It was really a huge transition to go through. And if it weren't for my relationship with God, I don't know how I would have made it through.
Yeah.
And so that was the pivot, is to, really put something in people's hands that I feel like is much more tangible and real, to help them with whatever they may be going through.
Mm. And the ending of the body is just that. The
Mm-hmm.
vessel of the spirit continues on, whether it comes back or whether it, keeps ascending. But anytime we want to feel that person, we can, because they left their imprint in us. And
Mm-hmm.
we can feel them, we can have that conversation with them. Very often we can just feel their spirit around us. And so they're never completely gone, only if
Right.
we shut them out, right?
Right.
And even when people move on to other relationships, you can take him with you, because that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is, I think it's a disservice to cut people out of your life experience, because the pain is too much, because it dishonors them and the impact they had on you. It's hurting yourself, because you need to feel the loss. Yes, then a
Mm-hmm.
person is no longer there, but you need to now look at it in a different way. I may have lost the physical person,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't lost the spirit of the person. And if I see the spirit and feel the spirit, then I know they're always there.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is so beautiful. I feel like you are speaking directly to my heart. I can't even express how impactful those words are to me. I recently was in a relationship and found myself really struggling with, like,
Mm.
how do I move on
Mm-hmm.
from that relationship with my husband to a new relationship, and I was really struggling with, how do I put my husband in the past? Like, how do I do that?
No,
I mean, I
you're an
can't.
author. He was so many chapters of your life.
Hmm.
He's not in these next chapters. However,
Hmm.
the influence and the love that he gave you will
Hmm.
be in those chapters. But it
Yes.
isn't to stop you from having an experience in your next chapters of life.
Right.
And it's not
Right.
being dishonorable. It is carrying the essence of him and how
Hmm.
he loved you as the
Hmm.
baseline for how you wish to be loved, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
also to know that that spirit of him, which was very much in you, will always be with you, no matter who else is in your life.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. I totally
So
agree
there
with
is
that.
not the end; it's just the end of a chapter.
Right.
The
Right.
essence of who he is in your life, and who no matter who else comes into your life, but who he
Hmm.
was to you in your chapters together will never leave you.
Right, right. That is so true. And so I did struggle around all that. My brain, I was like, ooh, I don't even know how to do this. And
Yeah.
so I think I wasn't really ready. And I think I need a little bit more time to kind of grapple with some things. But it doesn't mean I'm not open
Yes.
to a future relationship. I know that I have a lot more love to give,
Mm-hmm.
and will want that in my life, but I don't think it's for right now. I think
Mm-hmm.
I have some other things I need to do before then. I'm definitely loving my freedom, and I love travel, and my aging parents are here who I am helping take care of. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's other things that are really kind of a priority. And
Mm-hmm.
then, when
But
the
at the
time
same
is right.
time, yeah, no, the time could be right any time. And if
This
it's
is true.
right, it will fit into your life no matter what's
Well,
going on. So
you're right.
don't switch that channel off. Just
Okay.
say,
You're right.
that channel is open to the right person that can fit into my current circumstances.
This is true. This is very true. And I do believe that that's something that could happen. And I do think if it's quote the right person, I will have less conflict about whatever
Yeah.
emotionality. I
A
think
lot of it is always the guilt. Should I be happy that they have gone? And that, again,
mhm,
forgive yourself. There's nothing there to forgive. You loved
yeah.
him and you
Hmm.
still love him, and you will always carry that love forth with him. But as you said,
Hmm.
you've got so much love to give. Don't be
Hmm.
selfish with that love. Share it with someone else.
Right, right. And so, I think all those pieces will fall into place when it is the right person.
Yes, just be
I think,
open. Open.
yeah,
God will know.
right. God
God will
will
know
know.
when you are
Yes,
present, when that channel is right. We
right.
very often have to wait for the synchronicity of somebody that they know they want us to meet, but something's
Hmm.
going on in their life, something's going on in your life, and when the time is right. But you've always got to never dictate the time,
Hmm.
always allow, because when God brings it to you, it will always be the right time, even if it
This is
doesn't
true.
feel like it.
Right. This is so true. And I think for me, I felt like I was open to the idea if God brought somebody into my life. And this person was somebody that I did meet in church, and it just kind of flowed. And so I thought
Mm-hmm.
God was bringing him, but God has showed me that just because somebody shows up in my
Yeah,
life doesn't mean they're the right person. I
right.
still, have to, it has to fit for me. It has to
Yeah,
work for me, and not to deny my own authenticity. And so I've learned a whole lot about,
right. Well, it's
Lord,
it's when the core of you
mhm,
can't find any argument, then you know
mm,
it's right.
yeah,
But if
I
the
love that.
core of you, which is, God's core, is that's your connection with God at the very core of you. That's your
Mm,
generator, that's your love, that's your conscience, that's your wisdom. When that has no argument, you know it's right. If there
mhm,
is still, I can find argument here,
mhm.
then there comes the question, is it just the mind finding the argument, or is there really something missing here that is not making the core feel whole? Right?
Right, right. Yeah, I love that. I think the thing is, I was married 24 years,
Mhm.
and I'm in my 50s, and it's like I don't know how to date, I don't
I
know how to
I'm
date at
68,
this
love. I
age.
don't know how to
Right.
date either. So I've been single
So,
for a long
all of
time.
a long time. I know. So all of that is kind of new, and figuring it out,
Yeah,
and
we just got to be
figuring
open
out,
and willing.
yeah, and
Open
figure
and
out who
willing,
I am now,
Yes. Well, that is stepping into your presence, your whole Christian
mhm,
meditation. And the way you
yeah.
write, everything that comes out
Mhm,
of you, it comes from the presence. All right. That's
mhm,
the gift of God's message, the presence. When
yeah,
you are present
mhm,
with yourself, you are open to receive. And
mhm,
in that presence, you are the truth, you are the love, you are the peace, you are the wisdom, because that is your
mhm,
unison with God. So, whenever
mhm,
you get confused over anything, be present with
mhm,
yourself, because there you will always see the reality of the truth in that
right,
presence. But you
mhm,
can't see it when it comes to the mind or the conditioning. We can only see it when we're in God's presence,
mhm.
which is the presence within ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, that is so true. And I really kind of was not being honest with myself is what I felt in that relationship, and
Yeah.
I kept struggling until finally I got honest. And then I realized this relationship was not right for me, and I misunderstood, thinking of, because it happened in church, that it was of
That's
God.
right.
And you just have to realize that's not the truth. So
Yes.
I learned so much. So this is all
And
good.
that's
It's
what
all
life is
good.
about, learning,
Yes. Yeah.
evolving. And, and again, when we, just as you've challenged your books, and each time you've written, it's written itself. I don't know where this is going, but this going here, this is going there, that's transpired here. For
Mhm.
the same way you do your books, do your life.
Yeah. Yeah. That is wisdom right there. Yep. Because that's in the spirit. You're in that spiritual place when I
Yeah,
am when I'm
yeah,
writing.
yes.
And yes,
And
yes.
that actually is a form of meditation. So a
Mhm.
lot of people think meditation has to be something of cross legs from and ha. You could be at one with nature, you could be swimming, you could be doing anything. It's where you find you are open and ready to receive God's presence,
Mhm.
right? When you feel at one with them, where you feel where you can see the whispers between the words,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
And then you know that you know what you need to know when you need to know it. That is, I don't need to question this. This is truth, right?
Mhm.
But
Right.
it only comes when you are at one with,
Mhm.
and you can only be at one with when you are present with self.
Mhm. Yes, that
And
is
that
so
in itself is
true.
a form of meditation,
Right.
right?
Right. And that is what I learned from my pastor's book
Mhm.
on meditation is being present. We
Yes.
don't do that. We
No,
live
we
in the
don't.
future and we live in the past. We don't live
And
in
we
this
live in the
present.
conditioning around us, the
Hmm.
expectation of what's around us. And let's look at
Right.
society today. It's megally screwed up. Why? Because we're living in an illusion.
Hmm. Hmm. Right.
We're
And
not
so
connected in.
we're not connected. And some of that has to do with slowing down,
Yes.
slowing down and pausing for a moment and unplugging, from the world
Hmm.
and taking the moment to, like you said, connect, spiritually. And it's really beautiful when you can do that. It
Yes.
just it changes it. Like I said, it changed my life, and it continues to change my life because it's a daily practice,
And
of.
anytime you get confused, right?
Mhm.
Slow down,
Mhm.
slow your words down,
Mhm.
slow your breath down,
Mhm.
right? Find the presence within. And then whatever's happening around you, because meditation is about doing it in silence, is being able to find yourself and your presence amongst the chaos,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And it's being able to call on that God's essence and wisdom anywhere at any time, no matter what's going on.
Absolutely.
And you do
Mhm.
that when you bring yourself down, quieter, more deliberate. And as I said, when you speak, and whatever flows from you, the words are saying one thing, but the whispers are saying something else.
Mm.
And you hear those whispers, or you feel those whispers, because
Mhm.
that's the subliminal divine truth that your heart and soul needs to hear.
Mhm.
That is that form of
Absolutely.
meditation, and we need to do it every day,
Every day.
but not force it. Just
Right.
be it, become
Yeah.
the presence of it. That
Mhm.
this is where my nectar is. This is where my being is. This is my rejuvenation,
Mhm.
right? And when you're in that state of presence, everything about you becomes clearer.
Right. Right. That is so true. So true. Because I mean, God is love. And
Yes.
when we can center ourselves in
Hmm.
his love, we have peace, we have security, we don't have
Clarity.
yeah, we have clarity. We don't have fear and worry.
Right.
We have trust.
Mm.
We have joy.
Hmm.
It's all the things that are good in
Yes.
life if we settle into God who is love,
Yeah.
you know,
And
who
any
loves us
religion that
so
tells
much.
you God is about sacrifice or conditioning, and you've got to love God in this way, or you're against God, for
Mhm.
me is a false religion, because
Mhm.
God is utterly and truly completely about love,
Mhm.
and he has absolutely no care of what vessel you're in, black, white, pink, polka dot, no matter what
Right.
you're in.
Right.
God connects with your love essence. God
Mhm.
ignites that love essence, and when you learn to love you, you are loving God through you, with you, and
Mhm.
that is the truth of God, no matter which God you worship.
Right. And then that, like what we talked before, when your vessel is full
Mhm.
of love and you have God's love loving you
Mhm.
and you loving you, then you have it to give
Yes,
to the rest of the
in
world
spades.
in spades.
Yes,
Yes.
and in
Mhm.
books, more and
And
more
in books.
books.
Absolutely.
Because that clearly is your God language,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
It is.
the art of the writing, even though it's a reflection in you and what's around you and lessons learned, it is your
Hmm.
God language that is channeled through you
Yes.
to be the teacher in the world
Mhm.
through the books of God's
Mhm.
love. You know, you can't say I love God, but I hate myself.
Right.
Then you are
No.
disconnected. It's
Right.
when you are truly loving yourself for who you really are,
Yes.
for the beautiful essence of you, that's when you truly are loving God.
Hmm. Yes, that is so true. So true. Just like my pastor's book, Knowing as You Are
Mm.
Known, that is the whole like God knows you,
Yes.
you know God, then you know yourself as God knows you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just this
Yes.
circular thing. It's
It
beautiful.
is.
It's
It's the
beautiful.
connection.
Mm-hmm.
It's the generator
Yes.
of
Yeah.
who we are and why we are and what fuels us to do what
Mm-hmm.
we need to do. It is our
Right.
meaningful purpose. It is our
Yes.
service,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Our
It is
service.
our
Yes.
instrument in life. And the more we
Mm-hmm.
open up and center ourselves to receive this, the more we're going to be actually understanding what that meaningful purpose is. And it will
Mm-hmm.
not be a chore. It will not be anything
No.
that takes energy from us. It'll be
Mm-hmm.
something that we feel abundant and exuberant in,
Mm-hmm.
because this is our instrument to share.
Right. Right. Yeah. Our gift to the world, you
Yes,
know?
we
Yep.
are the gift to the world,
Yep.
right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not about what our gift is, it's we are the gift to the world. And when you become a gift to
Absolutely.
yourself, then you realize you are God's gift. God's gift
Yeah.
is you, right?
Right. Right.
It's a collaboration.
It is a collaboration. And it's so true because recently I had a younger person who's getting her master's in mental or guidance counseling. I can't remember which one. They're related. And she interviewed me. And I told her, it's not so much about the theories and the techniques.
Yeah.
It is you connecting with that client. You are the tool. It's not all that
Yes.
other stuff. You
100
are the
million percent.
tool
Yes.
that helps heal the other person,
Yes.
and it's that authentic
Yeah.
connection with the client, and loving them with like God's love, that pure love that allows them to then face their own issues and heal them
Yeah.
and grow. And so we are the gift, we're the
We are.
tool, you know.
I have an
Mhm.
analogy that I use virtually in every show because it's very poignant, is that we are in self-discovery of what our gift is. What is our instrument? How do we play it? How are the many ways we can play it? Then we
Mhm.
join an orchestra where each one of us and our own beautiful divine gifts can come
Mhm.
together in harmony and
Mhm.
create a symphony that resonates out in invitation and inspiration to others. But
Mhm.
that orchestra is only as good as everyone's participation, right? As
Right.
good as each person's instrument is. That's where
Mhm.
the harmony comes in, because
Yes.
each instrument is coming with that state of love.
Mhm.
And that love is dancing in harmony and resonance that's then exuding out. We
Mhm.
need to discover what our instrument is, what our
Yeah.
gift is, and it comes
Mhm.
through you and it becomes you, and
Mhm.
you are the instrument. It's not, and
Yeah.
anything else that you pick up outside are just little tools that you use to hone that instrument. That's all.
Mhm. Absolutely. I remember when I read that book, The Purpose Driven Life, and I was trying to figure out what my purpose was. When I realized it was writing to publish, it was like I'd come home.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of
Mm-hmm.
like you'd known it the whole
Mm-hmm.
time, but somehow
Yes.
you were blinded to it,
Yes.
and somehow the veil was
Yeah.
broken and lifted, and you're like, oh yes, of course, that's what I love to do. I've
Yes.
always loved doing this, and now I can do it and offer it to the world so
Exactly.
that it can help other people.
Yeah. So, the Christian meditation isn't a limitation of Christianity or come to Jesus or go to hell. It is about the meditation of living in a state of meditation, which is a state of presence,
Hmm.
and allowing God to come through you, allowing God to be with you, because it is that collaboration, it is that unison of
Hmm.
your beautiful instrument and Him, the conductor.
Right, right. That's so beautiful. That's a great analogy. Yeah.
And when we're in that, when we're in our artistry, that's when we're
Hmm.
truly present, and that's truly where our meditation lies.
Yes. Yep. That is very true.
So it's that unison with God.
Mhm.
So, how do people find your books and how do they find you?
Okay, well, all my books are on Amazon, or of course, excuse me, Barnes and Noble. I think. Oh, I'm gonna need
Yes,
a
yep,
drink
your
of
Barnes and
water.
Nobles, right? You're on Barnes and Noble and Amazon, and you
And
are on
then
where? Mhm.
I think I've even seen them on Walmart.com and Target.com. I mean,
Okay,
anywhere you can find books,
right, good.
they're available. Um, of course, you could get them directly from me. It's a little bit harder for me to mail it to
Mhm.
you, depending on where you are. So it's probably better to, order it from Amazon or something
Unless
like
they want
that.
a signed copy, and then
Right,
they can send you the book and the cost of sending it, right? For a
right,
signed
right.
copy.
And
Yeah.
I do have a way to do that through my website if
Mhm.
they are interested in that. So,
And the website is?
so it's www.wandaluthman.wordpress.com.
Can you spell your name for people who are listening, please, love?
Yes, so Wanda is Wanda. Luthman is Luthman.
And that's .wordpress.com.
Yes, yep. Mm-hmm.
And you're a W. Luthman on Facebook, and you're a Wanda Lu 64 on Twitter, and you are W. Luthman on Instagram. You're also on Goodreads as well, and also
Mm-hmm.
on the Red Cover Books, which is redcloverreader.com/au/Wanda Luthman.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole list of your books is here as well, so people can see all about them. So,
Yeah.
we've got Christmas coming. A book should be given any time for any reason, but we do have Christmas coming up.
Yep.
What age group do you have over you? Do you know somebody who's becoming your grandma? Give them the book to read to the grandchildren. People become new parents. So, kids don't need another big bashing toy. Books, books, books. They keep on giving. They keep on giving over and over and over again. So, a series of the books, the Frankie series or the whole book series or whatever. And when as you said, when you know somebody that's feeling a little lost, that doesn't know how to find themselves, then the veil or the cloak, just short stories of how to reconnect and how to understand we are the solution to the world when we are a solution unto ourselves, and that solution is in collaboration with God.
Yes.
Which
Yes,
is what
very
it's all
much.
about.
Yes.
Thank you for writing all these books. You have to come back again down the road when you've written a few more. We'll talk about those as well. I love it when people, channel their purpose. When somebody is living their truth and doing what they're doing because they've been divinely guided. And also that whatever they are guiding and whatever they are doing, there will be an essence about it that will be very transcending, which is beautiful. It's not more than just the story in the pretty book, that, as I said, the whispers in between the words. All right. So, which is always beautiful to give. So thank you so much for sharing here today, Wanda.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been so wonderful and enriching for me too. I just appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Right back at you, love. Right back at you. And thank you for allowing yourself to go on this journey without blocking it or, think, I'm not a real author. I'm not at this. There were so many people go through it. An author is a person that allows the love to come through them and put that love on a page in whichever way it's meant to be. So, that is an author. So thank you so much. And until next time, remember these books, Christmas, great time to give. And you could buy the whole book series and share it with the whole family, and they can rotate it amongst the kids, right? There's lots of ways of doing this. You can donate them to your local school or preschool or church or community center, right? If you're looking at how to give this year, well, the giving of a book to someone you know personally, but also giving it to a society that maybe need these books that really can't afford them. So there's many, many ways you can help folks. So until next time, happy reading. Bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or selfdiscoverymedia/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations, or follow us on Patreon and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.